The icy wind howled like a wounded beast, but it was the silence beneath the storm that truly chilled the bone. William Wynne stopped his heavy truck on the desolate, snow-drowned service road. At 50 years old, William possessed a presence carved by unforgiving elements. He was tall and built with a fiercely muscular frame, boasting broad shoulders and a powerful, square-jawed Caucasian face. Deep moss-green eyes, framed by deep crow's feet, scanned the frozen wasteland. A prominent nose sat above a short boxed beard, black-threaded with stark silver streaks, which perfectly complemented his military buzz-cut, salt-and-pepper hair. His sun-kissed, rugged skin texture and deep forehead wrinkles spoke of a past spent surviving the world's harshest environment. He was a former Navy SEAL, a man trained to notice what others overlooked. Through the whiteout conditions, William spotted something unnatural, a dragging trail leading to an abandoned, rusted fence. Driven by an instinct he had trusted for decades, he stepped out. The biting cold clawed at his heavy coat, but his focus locked onto a shape half buried in the snow. It was a dog, a German Shepherd and Labrador cross, weighing roughly balmy kilogram, her black and tan fur dangerously matted with ice. Despite her near-frozen state, she possessed a quiet majesty, erect, pointed ears and a long, strong muzzle. Her intelligent dark brown eyes held a desperate intelligence. Her naturally perfectly upright posture was violently compromised by a heavy rusted chain pinning her to a metal post. She was freezing, but she refused to look away from a dark shed near. All stories presented on this channel are fictional and are creatively developed based on themes such as courage, loyalty, resilience, and the special bond between veterans and their dogs. If you love stories of unyielding bravery and the powerful connection between humans and animals, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to help us share more inspiring tales. William approached the freezing animal with slow, deliberate steps. He knew better than to startle a wounded creature. This beautiful German Shepherd and Labrador mix, whom he would later come to call Smokey, barely had the strength to shiver. Yet as William knelt in the deep snow, he realized something heartbreaking. Smokey's intelligent dark brown eyes were not pleading with him for her own life. They were entirely fixated on the dilapidated pump station shuddering 50 yards. Without a second thought, William pulled heavy bolt cutters from his tactical belt. With a forceful squeeze from his muscular arms, the frozen metal chain snapped, echoing like a dry branch breaking across the empty fields. Smokey was free. Most animals would have immediately sought the warmth of their rescuer or bolted for the road. But Smokey did something that made the seasoned SEAL pause. Summoning an impossible reserve of strength, she dragged her freezing balmy kilogram frame through the snowdrifts, crawling stubbornly toward the decaying pump station. She was not running away. She was trying to get back to something. William followed Smokey's agonizing path through the snow, the wind howling around them as they reached the sagging pump station. The heavy wooden door was jammed, barricaded from the outside by a heavy iron pipe. Someone had intentionally sealed it. William's moss-green eyes narrowed in quiet fury. With a powerful heave of his broad shoulders, he shoved the barricade aside and forced the warped door open. The air inside was damp, smelling of old rust and decay. Smokey immediately collapsed near a set of scratched floorboards, her dark brown eyes staring down at a narrow blocked maintenance grate. Her long, strong muzzle rested against the freezing wood as a faint, almost imperceptible sound drifted up from the darkness. It was a tiny whimper. William immediately grabbed his flashlight, casting a stark beam down into the crawl space beneath the pump room floor. Hidden beneath the complex web of frozen pipes was a broken wooden crate. Inside, huddled together for whatever meager warmth they could share, were 4 tiny puppies. They had been trapped in the freezing darkness, separated from their mother by a locked floorboard. The reality of the situation hit the veteran hard. This wasn't an accident. Smokey hadn't just been abandoned, she had been chained outside to witness her puppies freeze beneath her paws. Someone of immense cruelty had orchestrated this slow tragedy, and William was determined to find out why. A cold, determined anger settled into the deep forehead wrinkles of William Wynne. His SEAL training kicked in. Emotion was secondary. Survival was the immediate objective. He swiftly pried the heavy floorboards loose, lowering his muscular frame into the freezing crawl space. The pups were dangerously cold, barely moving. He unzipped his heavy tactical jacket, exposing his sun-kissed, rugged chest to the biting air, and gently gathered the tiny shivering bodies. He placed them inside his coat, wrapping them securely against his own body heat. As he climbed back up, Smokey watched. Her perfectly upright posture was gone, replaced by extreme exhaustion, but as William knelt to show her the pups, she managed a weak, dry lick across each of their heads. Her intelligent dark brown eyes met William S. moss green ones, communicating a silent, profound gratitude. But there was no time to linger. William scooped Smokey Esparmikilo Gam frame into his arms, being careful of her matted black and tan fur. With the pups safely tucked in his coat and the brave mother in his arms, he marched through the blizzard back to his truck. He blasted the heater, creating a makeshift incubator in the. As the engine roared to life, William glanced back at the pump station. He noticed fresh survey markers and expensive tracking equipment hidden in the corner of the lot. This property was meant to be abandoned. Someone powerful was hiding something here. The drive to the nearest veterinary clinic was a tense race against time. The icy roads of the small valley town were treacherous, but William navigated the massive truck with precise, unshakable control. Beside him, Smokey lay on the heated seat, her long, strong muzzle resting protectively over William.'s jacket, which was bundled around her fragile offspring. Every few minutes, William would glance over. The silver streaks in his boxed beard caught the dashboard lights as his jaw tightened. He listened intently for the faint squeaks of the puppies, counting their breaths. When the truck finally skidded into the parking lot of the local clinic, William was already unbuckling. Dr. Sarah Lynn, the town's only emergency vet, met him at the door. Without exchanging a word, she saw the grim determination on William.'s square-jawed face and immediately prepped the warming tables. William laid Smokey down first. The brave dog's erect, pointed ears drooped, but she refused to close her eyes until every single puppy was placed under the heat lamps. As Sarah and her team worked frantically to stabilize the hypothermic animals, William stood near the frosted window, his broad shoulders casting a long shadow. He pulled out his phone and stared at a photo he had snapped of the survey equipment back at the pump station. The logo on the gear belonged to Richard Vance, the county's most powerful real estate developer. The war wasn't over. The sterile white lights of the veterinary clinic buzzed softly, a stark contrast to the howling blizzard outside. William Wynne stood like a sentinel near the stainless steel examination table. His tall and muscular build dominated the small room, his broad shoulders tense beneath his faded tactical shirt. On the table, Smokey was finally resting. The Bamie-kilogram German Shepherd and Labrador cross had stopped shivering. The ice was gone from her black and tan fur, revealing the true sleekness of her coat. Her intelligent dark brown eyes followed William.'s every move, forged with an unspoken bond of shared survival. Dr. Lynn sighed deeply, stripping off her gloves. "She's going to make it, William. The pups too, but another hour out there." She shook her head. That chain was secured with a heavy-duty padlock. Whoever did this wanted them to suffer silently. William's powerful jawline clenched, his deep moss-green eyes narrowing as the deep crow's feet at their corners tightened. He thought of the expensive survey equipment hidden near the dilapidated shed. This wasn't just a random act of cruelty. This was a calculated move to silence a protective mother who had taken shelter on land someone desperately wanted cleared. Richard Vance was the name on the equipment, and William was about to find out exactly what the powerful developer was trying to bury under the. Morning broke over the valley, painting the frozen landscape in pale, icy sunlight. Leaving Smokey and her pups safely under Dr. Lynn's watchful care, William drove into the heart of the small town. The local diner was filled with the low hum of nervous gossip. When William pushed through the glass doors, his commanding presence silenced the room. With his sun-kissed rugged skin texture and short boxed beard, black with silver streaks, he looked exactly like what he was, a man who didn't tolerate gain. He ordered a black coffee and sat across from a local contractor he recognized from a previous job. "What is Richard Vance doing at the old pump station?" William asked, his voice low but carrying the heavy weight of command. The contractor shifted uncomfortably, avoiding William's intense moss-green gaze. "Look, Wynne, Vance bought that tract last month. Rumor is he is bypassing the environmental surveys to fast-track a luxury resort." William's prominent nose flared slightly. Bypassing surveys meant hiding something. "A dog almost died because she was in his way," William stated plainly, the deep forehead wrinkles creasing as he leaned forward. The contractor swallowed hard. "Vance's men don't care about a stray dog. They care about keeping the site locked down before the state inspectors arrive next week." William finished his coffee. The puzzle pieces were falling into place. That night, the temperature plummeted again, but the cold was nothing to a former Navy SEAL. William returned to the rusted perimeter of the abandoned pump station, moving like a shadow through the snowdrift. His salt and pepper military buzz cut blended into the dark winter night as he expertly slipped past the newly installed security gate. He needed hard evidence of Vance's illegal activities. Navigating the decaying infrastructure, William found exactly what the developer was trying to hide. Concealed beneath heavy tarps in the rear lot were dozens of rusted barrels leaking dark, foul-smelling chemical runoff directly into the frozen soil, right above the town's underground water supply. Smokey hadn't just been seeking shelter. The intelligent German Shepherd and Labrador mix had been barking at the toxic stench, drawing unwanted attention to Vance's illegal dumping ground. Rather than risk exposure, Vance's men had chained the balmy kilogram dog to freeze, locking her puppies beneath the floorboards to ensure she wouldn't try to run away. The sheer cruelty of the cover-up ignited a righteous fire in William's chest. He pulled out a high-resolution camera, meticulously documenting the barrels, the serial numbers, and the toxic seepage. He was gathering the ammunition needed to dismantle a corrupt empire, without ever throwing a single punch. When William returned to the clinic the next morning, the change in Smokey was nothing short of miraculous. The heavy cloud of exhaustion had lifted from the brave mother. For the first time, William saw her naturally perfectly upright posture as she stood up to greet him. Her erect, pointed ears swiveled toward the sound of his heavy boots, and her long, strong muzzle nudged gently against his calloused hand. The bond between the rugged veteran and the rescued dog was cementing into something unbreakable. The four puppies were tumbling over one another in a warm playpen, full of life and entirely oblivious to the nightmare they had survived. "She's a fighter," Dr. Lynn smiled, watching Smokey lean her balmy kilo-gam frame proudly against William's leg. But the peaceful moment was interrupted by the chime of the clinic's front door. Two men in dark, expensive winter coats stepped into the lobby. They didn't look like locals looking for pet food. They possessed the cold, arrogant swagger of corporate fixers. William recognized one of them from the security logs he had researched the night before. It was Vance's right-hand man. William's broad shoulders squared immediately, his square-jawed Caucasian face hardening into a mask of pure granite. The battle had officially arrived at their doorstep. If you are enjoying this story of justice and the incredible bond between a veteran and his loyal dog, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing daily stories. The taller of the two fixers scanned the clinic, his eyes landing on the majestic black and tan fur of Smokey. "We were looking for a stray that was removed from private property," the man stated, his tone dripping with veiled threat. William stepped forward, intentionally placing his tall and muscular build between the men and the recovering dog, his deep moss-green eyes locked onto the fixer, radiating a dangerous calm. "There are no strays here," William replied, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that left no room for debate. "Only a mother who survived a cowardly attack." The fixer sneered. "Listen, old man, Mr. Vance wants his property secured. You trespassing on business that does concern you." William didn't flinch. The deep crow's feet around his eyes crinkled in a humourless smile. "You tell Richard Vance that William Wynne has photos of the chemical barrels he's burying out by the aquifer. And you tell him that if he ever sends men to intimidate a veterinary clinic again, he'll find out exactly what Mott used to do for a living. The air in the room grew ice cold. The fixers looked at William's sun-kissed, rugged skin and the unyielding set of his powerful jawline, quickly realizing they had provoked the absolute wrong man. The fixers stared at the imposing figure of William Wynne. The veteran's sun-kissed, rugged skin texture seemed to radiate an immovable force. His short boxed beard, black with silver streaks, bristled slightly as his powerful jawline remained locked in quiet defiance. Realizing they were outmatched by the sheer presence of the former Navy SEAL, the men backed away. "This is Teova," the taller one muttered, pushing through the clinic doors into the cold. As the chime faded, Smokey stepped out from behind William. Her perfectly upright posture had fully returned, and her erect, pointed ears swiveled toward the retreating vehicle. She let out a low warning growl, her long, strong muzzle pointed at the frosted glass. William knelt, resting a heavy hand on her Bami Kilo gam frame, feeling the solid muscle beneath her black and tan fur. "Easy, girl," he rumbled gently. Mordvay got this. He knew Vance would try to destroy the evidence before state inspectors arrived. William needed to act fast, bypassing local authorities who might be on Vance's payroll. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years, a trusted contact at the Federal Environmental Agency. It was time to bring the hammer down. Within hours, William was back on the road. The snow had finally stopped, leaving the valley draped in a deceptive, glittering peace. Inside the heated cab of his heavy truck, Smokey sat proudly in the passenger seat. Her intelligent dark brown eyes watched the passing pine trees with sharp curiosity. Her Bamaki Logam frame was steady, showing no signs of the freezing torment she had endured 2 days prior. William glanced over, the deep crow's feet around his deep moss-green eyes softening into a rare, genuine expression of warmth. The deep forehead wrinkles on his square-jawed Caucasian face relaxed slightly. He had placed the digital copies of the photographs on an encrypted drive, safely tucked into his tactical vest. They were heading to a neighboring county to meet Special Agent Carter, a federal investigator immune to Richard Vance's local influence. William's tall and muscular build shifted as he navigated the winding mountain roads. He knew the risks of exposing a billionaire, but his military buzz cut, salt and pepper hair belonged to a man who had faced far worse enemies. Smokey let out a soft whine and rested her chin on the center console, keeping him grounded. The meeting took place in the quiet back booth of a roadside diner far from their hometown. Special Agent Carter reviewed the high-resolution images on William's tablet. Carter's eyes widened as he saw the rusted barrels and the toxic sludge seeping into the snow. "This is a massive violation, Wynne. Vance is looking at federal prison time for the contamination alone," Carter said, securing the encrypted drive. William sat back, his broad shoulders filling the leather booth. "He also tried to freeze a mother dog and her pups to cover it up," William added, his prominent nose catching the dim diner light. "Make sure animal cruelty is on the list of charges." Outside the diner window, Smokey sat in the truck, her perfectly upright posture visible even from a distance. Her erect, pointed ears caught every sound of the parking lot, guarding the vehicle with absolute loyalty. The federal agent nodded, looking at the formidable veteran. William's moss-green eyes were hard as polished jade. Carter immediately made a phone call, authorizing an emergency raid on the pump station. The state was stepping in, and Vance's corporate cover-up was about to be blown wide open. By sunrise the next day, a convoy of federal environmental vehicles and state police cruisers descended upon the abandoned pump station. William parked his truck on a distant ridge, watching the operation unfold through his binoculars. Smokey sat patiently beside him, her black and tan fur blending beautifully with the dark interior of the cab. Her long, strong muzzle rested on the open window frame as she sniffed the crisp morning air. Down below, there were no dramatic gunfights or violent standoffs. Richard Vance's men surrendered immediately when faced with overwhelming federal authority. Vance himself was led out of his luxury SUV in handcuffs, his arrogant empire crumbling under the weight of his own greed. William lowered the binoculars, a quiet satisfaction settling over his square-jawed Caucasian face. The deep forehead wrinkles smoothed out, and a small smile tugged at his short boxed beard. He reached over and stroked Smokey's head. The Bamie-kilogram German Shepherd and Labrador cross leaned into his touch, her intelligent, dark brown eyes looking up at him with total trust. The toxic threat was neutralized, the corrupt men were detained, and the land was finally safe. A month later, the heavy winter snow began to melt, revealing the resilient green life beneath. William Wynne's secluded cabin was no longer the quiet, solitary fortress it used to be. It was alive with the chaotic, joyful energy of 4 healthy, bouncing puppies. They tumbled across the wooden porch, chasing leaves and each other. William sat on the sturdy wooden steps, his tall and muscular build relaxed. His sun-kissed, rugged skin texture warmed in the spring sun, the silver streaks in his salt and pepper military buzz cut catching the light. Beside him sat Smokey. The beautiful crossbreed maintained her perfectly upright posture, her erect, pointed ears alert as she watched her offspring play. She was no longer a terrified stray, she was a beloved companion. William reached into his pocket and pulled out a shiny new collar with a brass tag reading Smokey. He fastened it gently around her neck. Her long, strong muzzle nudged his rough hand, and her intelligent dark brown eyes sparkled with happiness. The former Navy SEAL had saved a mother from the freezing cold, but as he looked at his new family, William knew that Smokey had saved his heart right back. The transition from the battlefield to the backyard had been the greatest mission of William Wynne's life. As the ice on the creek behind his cabin began to crack and flow, William spent his mornings training the pups. His tall and muscular build was a constant, steady anchor for the young dog. His broad shoulders, once carrying the weight of tactical gear, now bent low as he patiently taught the puppies basic commands. Smokey sat by his side throughout every session, her perfectly upright posture serving as the gold standard for her children. With her erect pointed ears and her long, strong muzzle held high, she watched her 4 pups with a mix of maternal pride and sharp discipline. William's deep moss-green eyes crinkled with warmth as he watched the smallest pup, a spunky male with Smokey's black and tan fur, successfully master the sit command. The deep crow-esque feet at the corners of William's eyes were no longer signs of stress, but markers of a man who had finally found peace. His rugged, sun-kissed skin glowed in the soft morning light, the deep forehead wrinkles softening as he let out a rare, hearty laugh at the puppy's antics. However, the shadow of Richard Vance's influence was long, and legal battles were rarely swift. William received a phone call from Special Agent Carter one rainy afternoon. "Wynne, Vance S. Lawyers are playing dirty." Carter's voice crackled over the line. "They reclaiming the chemical barrels were planted by eco-terrorists to frame him. They even trying to subpoena your records, trying to paint you as a disgruntled veteran with a grudge." William stood by the window, his powerful jawline tightening. His short, boxed beard, black with silver streaks, shadowed his face as he looked out at the misty woods. He was surprised. Men like Vance didn't go down without trying to poison everything around them. "Let them try," William rumbled, his voice steady and dangerous. Mott dinner to just take photos of the barrels. Mott took soil samples and recorded the GPS coordinates of every survey marker they moved. His military buzz cut and salt and pepper hair were the only things moving as he shook his head. He had been a SEAL. He knew that a mission was over until the extraction was complete. Smokey sensed his tension and walked over, resting her intelligent dark brown eyes on his hand, offering her silent, balmy kilogram support. William knew he needed to strengthen the public's awareness to prevent Vance from bullying the local courts. He decided to do something he had avoided for years. He opened his cabin to the local press. A young journalist named Elena arrived, her eyes wide as she took in the sight of the rugged, square-jawed veteran and the magnificent Smokey. William's prominent nose was silhouetted against the firelight as he told the story, not of his own heroics, but of the dog's resilience. "She's the one who found the evidence," William said, gesturing to Smokey. "She was chained because she wouldn't stop alerting the town to the poison in their water. She's not just a dog, she's a whistleblower." Smokey sat perfectly upright, her erect, pointed ears twitching at the sound of the camera shutter. Elena captured the contrast between William's muscular, rugged frame and the gentle way he stroked Smokey's long, strong muzzle. The article, titled "The Guardian of the Valley," went viral within 48 hours. The community, once paralyzed by fear of Vance's power, began to wake up. As the public outcry grew, the local authorities who had previously looked the other way were forced to act. A town hall meeting was called, and for the first time in decades, the room was packed to capacity. William arrived with Smokey by his side. Her black and tan fur was brushed to a shine, and she walked with a grace that commanded respect. As William walked down the center aisle, his tall and muscular build and square-jawed Caucasian face served as a shield for the truth. He didn't need to say much. He stood at the podium, his broad shoulders squared, and projected the drone footage he had secretly captured of Vance's trucks dumping waste in the middle of the night. The room erupted in gasps. William looked directly at the town council, his deep moss-green eyes hard as flint. "You can protect a man's bank account, or you can protect your children's future," he stated, his powerful jawline set in stone. Beside him, Smokey let out a single sharp bark, a final punctuation to the evidence presented. The tide had officially turned. The legal walls finally closed in on Richard Vance. With the federal evidence, the public pressure, and the undeniable proof of environmental crimes, his bail was revoked. But for William, the real victory wasn't found in a courtroom. It was found in the quiet moments at home. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold, William sat on his porch swing. Smokey lay at his feet, her balmy kilogram frame relaxed, but her intelligent dark brown eyes always watchful. The pups, now much larger and stronger, were curled up in a heap nearby. William ran a hand through his salt and pepper military buzz cut and exhaled a long, steady breath. The deep forehead wrinkles that had once been etched by the horrors of war were now just part of his rugged, handsome face. He looked at the brass tag on Smokey's collar, then at the peaceful wood. He had spent his life fighting in shadows, but here, in the light of the valley he had saved, he finally knew what he was fighting for. He reached down, and Smokey met him halfway, her long, strong muzzle resting on his knee in a gesture of eternal loyalty. The fallout from the town hall meeting transformed the valley into a hive of activity. For years, the residents had lived under a cloud of quiet intimidation, but William Wynn's courage had acted as a lightning rod. Now the silence was replaced by the sounds of community restoration. William, with his tall and muscular build and broad shoulders, became an unofficial consultant for the local cleanup efforts. His military buzz cut, salt and pepper hair was a common sight at the edge of the pump station property, where he supervised the initial removal of the hazardous materials he had uncovered. His square-jawed Caucasian face, often set in a mask of professional focus, began to show a softer side as he interacted with neighbors who had once been too afraid to speak. Beside him, Smokey remained a constant, vigilant presence. Her balmy kilogram frame moved with a renewed vigor, her black and tan fur gleaming in the spring air. She seemed to understand that the land was being healed. Her erect, pointed ears would twitch at the sound of the heavy machinery, but she never strayed from William's side, her intelligent, dark brown eyes reflecting a deep sense of belonging and duty. One afternoon, William stood at the site of the old pump station, the place where he had first found Smokey chained and dying. The deep forehead wrinkles on his rugged face seemed to etch a map of his thoughts as he looked at the now repaired fence. There were no more chains, no more hidden poison. The state environmental team was finishing the extraction of the remaining barrels. William's powerful jawline tightened momentarily as he remembered the sound of the bolt cutters snapping the link that had held Smokey. He looked down at the dog, who was sitting vekepite at her perfectly upright posture near the very spot where she had been trapped. She was too fearful. She looked like a queen surveying her reclaimed king. Her long, strong muzzle was tilted upward, scenting the air, no clear of the toxic metallic tang that had once choked the area. William realized that true justice wasn't just about putting a man in a cell. It was about reclaiming the peace that had been stolen from the land and its creatures. He reached down to adjust his tactical vest, his sun-kissed skin glowing, feeling a profound sense of closure that even his years in the SEAL teams hadn't provided. As the weeks passed, William found himself reflecting on the strange path that had led him to this life. Sitting on his porch in the evening, the deep moss-green eyes of the veteran often wandered to the horizon. The crow's feet at the corners of his eyes crinkled as he watched the pups. now nearly half the size of their mother, tumble through the tall grass. He thought about the missions he had completed in distant, nameless lands, and how none of them felt as significant as the night he had carried 5 small, shivering lives through oblivion. His short boxed beard, black with silver streaks, caught the golden light of the setting sun as he leaned back against the cabin wall. Smokey approached him, her bar-kilo gam frame lean and muscular, and rested her head on his knee. She looked up at him with those intelligent dark brown eyes, and in that moment the language of the veteran and the dog was identical. They were both survivors who had found a reason to stop running. William's muscular hand stroked her erect, pointed ears, a silent promise that the shadows of their past would never darken their doorstep again. The time eventually came to find homes for 3 of the puppies. William and Dr. Sarah Lynn were extremely selective, ensuring each dog went to a family that understood the resilience of the breed. Dr. Lynn visited the cabin to perform a final health check. "You've done a remarkable job, William," she said, watching him handle the energetic pups with the steady patience of a man used to high-stakes discipline. William's prominent nose dipped in a modest nod. "Smokey did the heavy lifting," he replied, his voice a warm rumble. He decided to keep the smallest pup, the one he had named Scout, who shared his mother's black and tan fur and her fearless spirit. When the new families arrived, William stood with his broad shoulders squared, a tall and muscular figure of quiet authority. He watched as the pups were loaded into cars, but he didn't feel a sense of loss. He felt a sense of mission accomplished. Smokey stood beside him, her perfectly upright posture never wavering. She watched her children depart with a calm maternal dignity, her long, strong muzzle nudging William's hand as if to say, "We did good." With Richard Vance's assets liquidated to pay for the environmental restoration, the town council made a historic decision. The land around the pump station would be turned into a permanent wildlife sanctuary and public park. At the dedication ceremony, the mayor called William Wynne to the stage. William, dressed in a clean olive tactical shirt that emphasized his powerful build, walked up with Smokey by his side. His square-jawed Caucasian face was etched with a rare, humble smile. The mayor unveiled a small bronze plaque at the park's entrance. It didn't feature a politician's name. Instead, it featured an image of a German shepherd there. Kepite had erect pointed ears and a caption that read, "Dedicated to the loyalty that saved us." The crowd applauded, and for the first time, William didn't feel like a man standing apart from the world. He felt like a part of the community as heart. He looked at Smokey, whose black and tan fur shone under the bright sun. Her intelligent dark brown eyes scanned the happy faces of the townspeople, and she let out a soft, contented sigh. The veteran and the dog had found more than just safety. They had found a home that would honor their story for generations to come. The seasons in the valley began to turn with a rhythm that mirrored the healing in William Wynne's soul. By early summer, the vibrant greenery of the woods had completely hidden the scars of the winter storm. William, now 50, found himself moving with a grace that was less about tactical readiness and more about genuine contentment. His tall and muscular build remained as formidable as ever, but the tension in his broad shoulders had finally dissipated. His sun-kissed, rugged skin texture seemed to drink in the warmth of the sun as he spent his afternoons training Scout, the pup he had chosen to keep. Scout was a mirror image of his mother, possessing the same black and tan fur and the beginning of those signature erect, pointed ears. Smokey sat nearby on the porch of the cabin, her balmy kilogram frame relaxed, her intelligent dark brown eyes watching the training session with a quiet maternal wisdom. Her perfectly upright posture was a constant reminder of the dignity she had never lost, even when chained in the dark. William's moss-green eyes would often catch Smokey's gaze, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had shared. The deep forehead wrinkles on his square-jawed Caucasian face were now marks of wisdom rather than worry, as he realized that his greatest victory wasn't won on a battlefield, but in the quiet restoration of a single, loyal life. Even as the valley flourished, the final echoes of the legal battle against Richard Vance reached the cabin. Special Agent Carter made one last visit, his federal SUV kicking up dust on the long drive. William met him at the gate, his salt and pepper military buzz cut and short-boxed beard looking sharp against the summer light. Carter delivered the news. Vance had been sentenced to maximum terms for environmental crimes and a litany of fraud charges. The Developer S attempt to paint William as a disgruntled veteran had backfired spectacularly. Instead, the court had praised William S.'s unflinching integrity and precision in evidence gathering. William took the news with a stoic nod, his powerful jawline set. He didn't seek satisfaction in Vance's downfall, but in the safety of the aquifer and the townspeople. His prominent nose caught the scent of the clean pines, a stark contrast to the toxic rot he had exposed. "It's over then," William rumbled, his voice carrying the weight of a man who had completed his final watch. Carter looked up Mott Fee, the veteran, and his dog, noting the moss-green eyes that seemed to hold a newfound peace. As the agent drove away, William turned back to the cabin, Smoky falling in step beside him. The Bami Kilogam dog nudged his hand with her long, strong muzzle, confirming that the threat was truly gone. The legacy of the rescue extended far beyond the borders of the new wildlife sanctuary. Inspired by William S. actions, the town established the Smoky Initiative, a program designed to pair rescued working-breed dogs with Kepitehat veterans struggling to adjust to civilian life. William, despite his preference for solitude, agreed to act as a mentor. His tall and muscular build and square-jawed Caucasian face became symbols of hope for many men who arrived at the valley with heavy hearts. He taught them not just how to handle the dogs, but how to listen to them. He used his moss-green eyes to look past their defenses, showing them how Smoky Hess' perfectly upright posture and erect, pointed ears were signs of a resilience they also possessed. Smoky herself became the Program S mascot, her balmy key logam frame providing a calming presence for everyone who visited. She would sit Vekeptehat, her intelligent dark brown eyes fixed on the newcomers, her long, strong muzzle resting gently on their knees. William watched as the bonds between man and dog began to heal others, just as Smoky had healed him. His salt and pepper hair and rugged skin were no longer the traits of a lone warrior, but of a teacher who had found a higher calling in the service of compassion and loyalty. As autumn approached, painting the valley in shades of amber and crimson, William sat by the stone fireplace in his cabin. The deep crow's feet at the corners of his moss-green eyes crinkled as he watched Scout and Smoky curled up together on a thick rug. He reflected on the nature of courage. He had spent his youth believing it was the ability to walk into fire, but now, at 50, he knew it was the ability to keep one's heart soft in a cold world. His broad shoulders were still strong, but they now carried the warmth of the puppies he had fostered and the gratitude of the town he had saved. His powerful jawline and prominent nose were silhouetted by the dancing flames, the silver streaks in his boxed beard. He realized that the seal in him hadn't died, it had simply evolved. He was still a protector, a guardian of the vulnerable, and a seeker of truth. The deep forehead wrinkles on his rugged face told a story of survival, but also of a profound second chance. He reached out to stroke Smoky S' black and tan fur, feeling the steady heartbeat of the dog, who had taught him that even the strongest chains could be broken by a single act of mercy. The final scene of this incredible journey took place on a crisp October evening. William Wynne stood on his porch, the sun setting behind the mountains, casting a golden glow over his salt and pepper military buzz-cut and sun-kissed rugged skin. He looked out over the valley, seeing the lights of the town where children would now grow up drinking clean water, and where a sanctuary stood as a testament to a dog's bravery. Smoky sat beside him, her balmy kilogam frame a masterpiece of black and tan fur, her perfectly upright posture as majestic as ever. Her erect, pointed ears caught the distant sound of an owl, and her long, strong muzzle pointed toward the stars. Scout sat on the other side of William, mimicking his mother's poise. The veteran, the mother, and the son stood together, a family forged in the snow and tempered by the truth. William S. Moss' green eyes were bright, reflecting the beauty of the life he had reclaimed. He rested his hands on the heads of Beote Hut dogs, his square-jawed Caucasian face finally clear of the shadows of the past. The seal had cut the chain to save a dog, but in doing so he had set himself free. The story of William and Smoky would live on, a timeless reminder that in the battle between cruelty and kindness, love always has the final word.
The Channel The Dog and the Veteran is a storytelling platform created for entertainment, inspiration, education, and the promotion of positive emotional values. All stories presented on this channel are fictional and are creatively developed based on themes such as courage, loyalty, resilience, and the special bond between veterans and their dogs. The content does not represent real individuals, actual events, or documented cases. Any resemblance to real people, animals, or events is purely coincidental.